Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Drew from Future Strategy Gaming. Thanks so much for coming and watching my video. So we are doing another reaction. This video is a little bit longer. It's looks like it's 18 minutes from Bellular. The big difference is between WoW and Final, and I think this will be good for me to watch as well, just because I have a lot of WoW knowledge. So it'll be interesting to see kind of his perspective as a new player and see what he's experiencing. So if you like the video, make sure you hit the like button. If you want to see more of these videos, hit that subscribe down there. Let's just get into it.
Somebody said, most important question, are you a cat girl? Yes, I think I'm a
Came
sun
up in the
cat
last
girl.
video.
Maybe moon cat
yes,
girl.
you're a keeper
I
of the
don't
sun.
know.
Keeper of the sun, Mikote.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's what it is.
I mean, that's... I was thinking of going for like a
I said it
dragon
in my
or
last
something,
video, it
but,
doesn't make
I
sense.
could not make a character on Zodiark, so I had to go with an old, basically meme cat girl character that I created and did not touch at all. But you know what? I'm actually having fun so thus far. So I was doing that. Basically, like, actually reading the quest text is important.
Big time.
Now, the game provides, it shows quest text to you via conversations that you click through, like it's a JRPG, like it's an RPG.
It is a JRPG, yeah.
Now, that is so much more effective than how WoW does it by default, which is just click an NPC, wall of text.
It's two different games.
And if you want to solve that problem within World of Warcraft...
So, as you were saying about the narrative of Gridania, all the little things coming together into the bigger things,
Yes,
all
that
the
worked quite
experience
well.
of that. Yeah. So, here's the thing about that. That's Final Fantasy 14.
Yep.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
never stops.
He didn't
there.
have to say 14.
that's the
That's
thing.
Final
It
Fantasy.
also has massive moments as well.
It seems like it's... You know, I'm playing like the worst bit, but it just kind of goes...
That's a
better and
pretty
better and better.
that's a pretty big
It
skyrocket.
gets- oh man, it is.
If you haven't played A Realm Reborn, if this is the slope, it's a slow build. You're gonna take some time. It requires time, and you know that is a big thing for a lot of players. They don't want to invest that amount of time. What else you got going on?
I don't know how to put this. I was relatively unsold on ARR when I finished it.
All right.
I was
It's
like,
just
this is
okay.
good, but it's not great. This is fine.
Yeah.
This is perfectly okay.
Sure,
And then now
Heaven Sword's so good.
I want to go back into the past and
Fucking
punch myself in the
hiccups.
head for not keeping up with FF.
Yeah.
Because 5.3 is after finishing 5.3, which
Interesting.
is, that's when all of the expansion stuff ends. 5.4 and onwards is lead up to Endwalker.
Yeah, from
and
what
then
I've been
some other
told.
side stuff. It is my second favorite game of all time, without even thinking about the MMO part. In
That's
terms
pretty
of just the
big.
story it tells.
Yeah,
The one game that beats it is Nier Automata overall.
never played. That's
Like,
exciting
it
for me
is-
because
it
I'm
is
only through
completely-
5.1,
completely
so
And it's
and
all
I think
based off
5.0
that
is
same foundation.
fucking
It's all
amazing.
that same foundation of just, here's a couple people, they've got problems. Are you going to help them? You go, fuck it, I'll give you a hand. Every time you show up somewhere new,
It's pretty true. It's a very good
it's
take.
never, oh, hello, venerated one. Don't do any bullshit. Here's the big problem.
Sure.
It is just like, right, someone's there, and it's part of the main story quest. It's not just side quests, where it's like, all right, go help this person with their like menial thing or their trivial like tasks and stuff. And it's a lot of it is like people here aren't really trained for combat.
Right.
You're really strong. Go sort them out.
Yeah.
So you fight stuff, and then someone's like, go pick some things while you're there, and it's just
Works.
consistently being treated like an adventure is absolutely
Feels great.
insane.
I've liked that so
It's
far,
completely
actually.
insane,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they keep that the entire way, even as the character builds up a reputation as being, the hero of the story. It is still like I saw. This is a long time ago, or the post was from a long time ago. I think it might have been from around Heavensward time. Maybe it was early Stormblood, but someone on Reddit posted saying, like your main character is barely a character sometimes.
Yeah,
You're
definitely.
basically, like, you're a tool. You're literally, you're like a gun in the back pocket of other characters,
Yeah.
and you're just used to point and shoot things. Like, oh, we've got problem solved. Pull out the main character,
Yeah.
and through that,
It's a good
especially when they
perspective.
start to add dialogue choices later on, that really feel meaningful and go back to previous things. They're not massive. They change the next line of dialogue, but nothing else essentially.
Right.
Where something
But
you
that
can-
makes
you
it
can
so
make
much more
like
immersive.
a funny, you could say a funny thing, and the character will respond going, "You're such a bell end." Anyway, off we go,
Right.
and it just works so perfectly because you're the one who's done all this immense stuff.
Yeah, it's really nice. No matter what the story is on Rails, essentially, it's always going to be the same story. But having that little flavor, where it's not going to change. This isn't a Goosebumps book, or you're not playing Fable, where your decisions completely change the story. It's really nice to just add that little bit of flavor into it.
As all these other characters are doing main character things, and it is absolutely unbelievable overall.
Yeah.
Is unbelievable, and it's purely from that thing of they started it there, of learn about these people, learn
Yeah.
about this place, and just do that over and
Get
over.
involved,
Yeah,
right?
it's that thing where I get a humongous feeling that it's a slow build that is going to pay off.
Big time.
It is,
Which I
yeah,
mean, I know it pays off basically from everybody that I've heard.
it really does.
The duties, which are kind of like scenarios that
yeah.
you're bumped into for
Single
like, key
single
plot
player
moments,
little mini
they've been good,
missions.
too, and you go into them really quite seamlessly. I know it'll be way better in the future, but what I've really noticed is like even the Realm Reborn cinematography, cutscene stuff.
Yeah,
It is less jarring than World of Warcraft Shadowlands is.
it really is.
Way less jarring.
Yeah.
And I think that just goes to show how much better those RPG elements are handled by Shadowbringers. And basically,
It's not just
the World of Warcraft
Shadowbringers.
stuff looks completely fucking incompetent in comparison. And
That's pretty big.
I've seen some in-game cutscenes that happen in Stormbringer. That I
Stormblood?
think you showed me, or Stormblood. It was like a year ago.
Yeah.
And those absolutely, it was like they looked like.
That's a franchise, though. Like, you can go back to 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, they've been doing this for many titles. This isn't anything new. So, if you're familiar with the franchise, this is exactly what they've been doing. This isn't anything unique or special. They do a great job, don't get me wrong, but it's not like cutting edge. This is ahead of their time. I mean, back then it was, but
like actual video game cutscenes that you get in a video game with a campaign that you play, but it was there in this MMO. You compare it to the WoW
Yeah.
ones where you've got
That's part of
Tirana's
the
mouth,
franchise, though.
doing something. Her voice is doing something completely different. The animations looking all janky, and also a thing that makes
Sure.
the WoW ones look completely embarrassing.
it's got some strong words.
Their art style doesn't match the game they're making at all for World of Warcraft sometimes. Now, I don't mean the art style of the world.
Yeah,
Of
that's
course,
good.
A part of art style is animation, how things are animated. So the acting of WoW's characters is completely incongruent with the narrative. You've got Laura Bailey giving this big
When it's-
performance,
when it's
and then
in-game,
Jaina with these
yeah.
humongous eyes, this incredibly overexpressive face,
Sure.
and you look at that and you're like, wow. What is going on? This is a weird cartoon, but the voice acting doesn't actually match it. Nothing, it all feels bad and weird. Whenever Blizzard do, those in-game cutscenes they started doing in Legion, and they've never looked good. They look better now than they did in Legion, but actually it's weird. In Legion, Blizzard, it's like they knew they looked bad, so they used them sparingly and they play to their strengths. But now Blizzard will just flat out give you a close-up of a character's face and it'll look terrible.
Yeah.
And it's also like cinematography seemingly done by just a random game designer.
Yep.
And look, for an example, for our game development, a recent build
Right.
that we reviewed.
So again, he brought this up. He does have his own game studio. He does do his own game design. So I feel, is a little bit more critical about some of these things. Again, it goes back to, is the average player going to know and or care? Jarring, dog shit, those are a little much. I definitely don't love a lot of the cutscenes. I do enjoy some of them, but I don't love all of them. But to call them dog shit, I don't know. I think it's just part of the cartoony style that WoW did, because it was so different from what was available in 2004, and they've stuck to that model.
Very happy with it. Very, very happy with it overall. But some of the staging and, placement of characters and composition was clearly, it's stuff that, we know it wasn't done by the art director, because
Right.
it wasn't done by the art director. And it's
Yeah,
very early
that's why
casting,
he's
it's
just
fine.
so-
But it's one of those things where it's like, that's important. It's important to get those things right. WoW completely fucks that up. And Final Fantasy
Strong words
14
again.
seemingly is doing a better job than WoW now in A Realm Reborn. I know it does a far better job based on the story.
Again, that's the franchise. They've always done that, so
and then from what I understand,
it's very
by the time you hit
narrative-driven.
Shadowbringers, they had massively upgraded a bunch of their camera tech and stuff
Gets
to the
way
point
better.
where it is truly incredible looking.
Yeah.
So that's rough for Blizzard. They have not made the investments to compete with Final Fantasy XIV narratively. And then I think also
Not sure they
in Final
should.
Fantasy XIV, they are, I think, obviously way more willing to do things slowly and to earn their big moments. Whereas it feels
part of
like
the
Blizzard
franchise.
loves their own lore and thinks that they deserve their big moments.
Jesus.
That's basically it. It feels like
Who
Blizzard
hurt you?
thinks they deserve their big moments, whereas Final Fantasy XIV thinks it needs to earn its big moments. That's what
Jesus.
I've got from people so far, and it's definitely meshed with my experience of the game thus far as well.
That's entirely it. And
It just sounds like he's angry at WoW. It sounds like he's just super frustrated with why the game not being in a great spot. So he's he's direct. I'll give him that. I'm also a direct person, but he is, man,
an expansion will be
man.
over 3 patches over like a year and a bit. They'll drop stuff at the start of an expansion, and then it'll pay off at the end.
Yeah.
But even better than that, there are so many callbacks and things that I remember happening in 2.0. Characters that are important, events that are important, things that have happened, and sometimes they're a little bit kind of just callback to in a sense. But
Small
after
stuff,
finishing
but it's
Shadowbringers,
nice.
It's like no, there are things that they have told you at the start of 2.0 that if you don't remember them,
Right.
your experience will be worse.
Yep.
Not in the way at keep all this shit in your head, but in the case of this is a linear story that they have told. They've told it piecemeal.
Okay, I'll agree.
Because they can't tell it all in one go. But they've told it over, 2013, 2019? They've told it over 7 years. And it has been absolutely remarkable.
Yeah.
I think that specifically the recent main scenario quest writers are they are next level.
Yeah, they're just good
they
writers.
aren't just
flat
good
out.
writers for video games or good writers for an MMO. They are literally good writers.
Yeah.
Especially with stuff in 5.3, there's a level to it where
Haven't seen it yet.
I had to stop and I was like, fuck me.
I guess
Just on. That is
That pumps me up because, like I said, I haven't gotten to that content yet. And he said 5.3 is the second best game he's ever played. I thought 5.0 was fucking amazing. So I'm looking forward to this. I might actually record myself playing through that and see kind of what my reaction is to some of this stuff. This is good.
unreasonable.
there's something we need to engage with here. Blizzard are good at making worlds and building lore.
Yeah.
I do not think Blizzard are good writers. And I've never understood why
I can
people
agree
think
on
Blizzard
that.
Are this renowned.
I think the books that
storytellers.
they put out is better.
I want to dive into that point a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at, say, StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
And how they... I mean, look, I
the wrong
kind of
game.
like the StarCraft 2 story for what it is, and, it's fun to go through, but it certainly does not live up to the promise of StarCraft 1 and what it established.
Super quick. It is an RTS. That is not a story game. It has a story in it, but it is an RTS first. It's like going into League of Legends, not watching the cartoon on Netflix, but going into the League of Legends. It's the cartoon. No, the cartoon's on Dota. And just being like, this story's shit. That's a MOBA. That's not a story playing game. I don't know. I don't agree with this.
StarCraft 2, I mean, you got is basically Jim and his relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Metzen.
Well, I mean, okay, we kind of know there's very real life parallels with Metzen's life that
Yeah.
he's admitted are actually what drove a bunch
But
of that
that's
creative
not-
direction, which I, of course, I don't really like how it went.
Again,
down.
it's not a story
but,
game.
there's that.
Sorry
Diablo
for
3,
fanboying on
fucking hell,
WoW,
what awful
apparently.
storytelling that game has. What a silly disaster.
I don't remember a fraction of it. I played that game like crazy.
Yeah.
What do you say?
And then, there's that. Like Diablo 3. I mean,
fucking
what
terrible.
awful storytelling that game
Yeah,
has.
it was
What a
so bad.
Silly disaster.
I don't remember a fraction of it. I played that game like crazy.
yeah.
I beat that game
And
once
then,
and never
in
picked it
World
up
of Warcraft,
again.
I mean, Blizzard has made
Shit.
bizarre narrative decisions for ages.
Yeah.
Their world building, their lore stuff
It's
has been
good.
cool, but their actual storytelling in game has always been shoddy.
That's
Look
the
at
thing,
Battle
is
for Azeroth,
in-game,
where,
it's not
they
good, but the
raced
books they
through
put
their
out is
lore
awesome.
so fast, and we're so bad at really explaining things well. It's like the only good Blizzard storytelling happens in transmedia narrative, not in game.
That's what I was
So I
saying.
guess
The books that they put out, the lore books that they put out outside of World of Warcraft, I think are exceptional reads. If that is something that interests you, highly recommend picking those up. But I mean, yeah, he references Battle for Azeroth. If you haven't played it, I can't really make a great comparison for you, but it was bad. It was really really bad, and it just felt like there was no end in sight that was worth our time.
for me, it's like super jarring to play an MMO and have good storytelling within the MMO and not just as a part of the transmedia narrative and broad world building facts that are interesting.
Interesting.
So, it's like the Starfang thing that everybody liked.
Yeah.
It was a
That
movie
was
outside
a
of the
short
game, though.
movie that people watched and had an emotional reaction to.
Yeah,
That wasn't video game that people played and had emotional reaction to.
correct.
So it's it's interesting.
That movie was fantastic. Sorry for pausing so much. That movie was great. If you haven't seen it, even if you don't like WoW, I think cinematography wise, that is a fantastic little short film. How I think they could have done it better if I'm part of the World of Warcraft dev team is introduce a storyline in which you play through and up to, and then put that into the game as, hey, you came into this is the resolution. You complete this quest, it takes you into the cutscene, and that's exactly kind of how Final does. And it would have been much better. Instead, it was a standalone video released on YouTube outside of the game. Incongruence with a patch that came out, so it kind of felt disconnected. Oh, what happened there? No.
They need to slow down. Institutionally, they're just and broad world building facts that are interesting. So, it's like the Starfang thing that
There
everybody
we go.
liked.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was like a short movie that people watched and had an emotional reaction to.
It was great.
That wasn't video game that people played and had an emotional reaction to. So it's it's
True.
interesting.
Big true.
It's interesting. I don't really know how Blizzard can fix up this problem because it seems institutionally they're just sitting there being like, oh yeah, we're here to make awesome moments and epic narratives. But it's like they need to slow down and spend more time setting their things up.
There just needs to be more.
Just blasted through so much lore that it's like their storytelling hasn't been able to keep up with the pace of like the broad narrative movement they've been making.
They need more storytelling.
So that's an issue.
Keep up to
And
be
I
able
think
to
there's
keep
a
up.
space where a lot of people, if they can find themselves able to go and play something Japanese that feels different and get into it, and actually have that suspension of disbelief, then I think it will be a lot more successful for not the lore side, but it'll be more successful for the storytelling side, I think.
Big time.
Yeah, that's
Two different
that
game
is
tellings, though.
exactly what Nikki experienced going through, because obviously he's a big anti-weeb, and he's just like, now that he is happy to suspend his disbelief and has done it, he's like, no, this is absolutely insane. If you can just let those preconceptions of what this is or what you think this might be go, it is absolutely, it's next level.
There is absolutely nothing worse than someone who will make negative comments about something they've never experienced. You can have all the preconceptions. I'll be honest, I don't like anime. Not because I haven't found something. I enjoy the Studio Ghibli, whatever, are fantastic. My wife introduced me to that, but I don't like watching anime. That's just not my style that I'm into. But I'm not gonna say it's bad. I don't know enough to say that. So to look at Final from a rose-colored glass of, it's not WoW and it's this JRPG, so it's just a weeb game. You don't even know. You built this preconception based on probably other people saying it in your realm, and you didn't even give it a chance. And there's nothing worse than that. It's so frustrating.
It's next level. And World of Warcraft, I don't know how they can
Too many
solve
WoW
it
Andes.
without completely rethinking everything they do and write and all of their pacing. It's a case where
It's
they
pacing.
need
And more
they
writing
need to
needed.
look at their 10-year plan or 5-year plan or the plan for next expansion and just throw it out.
They need to
Based on the
stop,
last couple,
like,
yes.
they need to stop having the level up experience of their expansions.
It doesn't
have
mean
so little
anything.
bearing in the ending.
Yeah, it means nothing.
Like, there's a bunch of flavor and context. It's all fine and interesting, but it's almost as if 2 expansions in a row. It's like you hit max level, and then things actually kick off, because it's like, you know,
Yeah.
we've learned a few factoids and stuff.
Legion was
but
pretty
for
good.
Zoval and Sylvanas as actual characters, you know, people with
We
motivations,
don't know
we
about
learned
them.
kind of nothing about them
Right.
as we leveled up.
Yeah, it was just,
Right.
it was just introducing you to all this other stuff.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like, what if all of that time where we were dealing with, you know, killing bugs in Ardenweald, we actually were learning about the characters that would be core to this expansion.
Yep.
So, and then I think back to, you know, all that time we spent in Kulturas and Zandalar.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of get we were solving those problems, but
Not really.
it's like that was an expansion about Battle for Azeroth, and I felt like the Battle for Azeroth happened. We weren't there. We were just
Yeah.
We were then world building these
Yeah.
two islands that we, you know, would sort of not end up being that important, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So it's that weird thing of Blizzard's just like, bam, bunch of stuff and a time gated.
For context and final, relevant to Shadowlands, I guess, it's as if you go into the Tempest. I'm not trying to do any spoilers. You go into the Tempest and you don't do any of the setup quests that lead to what you eventually finish out in the Tempest. And that's just kind of how it felt. Like they just, here are these two things and none of it's going to matter in a couple of months.
Campaign for the story that actually matters. Whereas I'd rather they were just like, you know, slow burn through the entire thing.
Yeah.
And then not having that time gated Covenant campaign, because I think,
Big time. That was annoying.
I don't know what FF does, but certainly it's hard to reconcile a well-paced narrative with 30 minutes or whatever, 40 minutes a week.
There's just
What
more.
it does, like, I am not aware of any time gating it does outside of this isn't out yet.
There is a lot of time
Unless you
gating.
consider go do this fight time gate.
No, there's way
Because
more.
the MSQs will just go
Beast
right.
tribes.
It is now logical that there's a dungeon
know,
that you're
raid
going to do 'cause there's a
progression.
thing to do in it.
The-
There's a problem
I'm
to solve in it. Or you need
slipping
something
right
from
now,
it,
but
so
there's
you go
way more than
and
that.
you party up, you go into that dungeon.
Yeah.
And then same with trials, where the end bosses aren't like raids that you don't engage with at all. The end bosses of like
Part of the
all
story.
your content of your patches are trials, as they're called.
Yeah.
Which are, here's a single boss in a room, you queue for it in the duty finder. It's not extremely hard, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
If you don't do mechanic correct, you die. Most mechanics are telegraphed in a way that if like you learn the design language, you know, don't stand in orange. For the
Sure.
first couple boss fights, if you don't stand in orange, you're fine.
Is it maybe a good analogy here, perhaps Onyxia
Yes.
or Sartharian,
Yes.
as in kind of one boss that the raid can go to, versus a current WoW world boss?
No.
Don't even do
Not a
Like,
world
is
boss.
that is that our
yes,
sort of
it is
difference?
very much Onyxia.
Onyxia, right.
It is very much like the last boss of Crucible of Storms in isolation. It is
Gotcha.
it
Oh,
is-
by
it is
himself,
a raid
yeah.
boss that's a little bit simple.
Mhm.
That you queue up to, you go in, that's it. That's it. There's no like,
Until you
but
increase its difficulty.
that stuff usually is an intro cutscene that will like the at the start everyone waits for you because they're forced to in trials. It's literally you can't pull the boss until people have either skipped the cutscene or watched it all.
Right.
And then they usually end with
Which is cool.
an ending cutscene.
Don't be a jerk.
And then you'll
Let
be
people watch
outside
cutscenes.
The entrance to the raid.
Your time's not
Because,
more
like,
valuable
the
than
trial,
theirs.
'cause you're supposed to like basically it brings you up to a point where it goes, here's the fight.
Yeah.
And then there's a thing you can click that will open the duty finder for you. You can do it from anywhere else. You can go do other things while
Yeah.
you wait in queue. But then at the end of it, teleports you back there. So it is this like seamless bit of here's MMO boss fight in the middle of your single player JRPG.
Sure.
Because I saw someone in chat there say, I'm not going to scroll up to find it because it's long gone. But someone's saying it sounds like very much just a single player RPG. Where's the MMO? That's one of the
Yes and no.
kind of
They do
biggest
both.
things about it. It's both.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what I kind of don't get, how it's so like it is to
It's
me
both,
it feels
for
reckless
sure.
that I finish playing like however many hours of single player content in Shadowbringers, like 30, 20 something, 30
There's more than that just
I'm
in 5.0.
leveling, but I'm not leveling. I'm never leveling. I'm never
You're
thinking
playing
No.
a story in a
yeah,
game.
I'm
Right.
playing
Yeah.
through a story.
And the
at
progression
end of that
happens.
story, I am level 80.
Exactly.
I've had an incredible experience. I've had 30 hours of this shit is absolutely incredible.
Great take at the end right there. Great take. He does a really good job of explaining that it doesn't feel like leveling. You don't feel like, oh, I was leveling through this, and it's really quite nice. Definitely some things I don't agree with. They it sounds like there's some frustration coming out with some of the comments, and that it is what it is. But I mean, to each their own. I don't want this to be a negative. I'm not, just because we have a difference in opinions doesn't mean either of us are right. So, cool. It's very interesting to see his perspective, especially since he's so fascinated by lore, kind of what he's dealing with. Again, I said it in another video, like I'm super excited for Bellular to get further into the game and really experience just how much it has to offer, because this dude isn't even through ARR. Imagine when he gets to Heaven's Ward or Stormblood or Shadowbringers for that matter. It's going to be a good time. So this video kind of ran a little bit longer than what I want, but I mean, if we're going to do these reactions, it's kind of based on their experience. I try not to pause as much. Anyways, appreciate you guys. Hit that like button down below. Make sure you hit subscribe if you want to see more of this content. I appreciate you for that. I got more content on the way, just working on stuff in between my career and taking care of the baby. So this is Drew from Future Strategy Gaming. Thanks. Peace.